Zambia, I'm also quite excited about because we need to get that news out more and hopefully find a way to monetize that, maybe do a spin out, merge it with somebody else, maybe get a major partner in various options on the table. Plus it will take us another couple of months to interpret the data that we have and do some surface work to work up these targets a bit. I'll be very disappointed if we don't drill this year. The nice thing about a lot of these Namibian buyers is they buy these shares, they put them away, they forget about it. So they're great shareholders to have. Highly motivated, and you can see we've bought in the market ourselves as well, and we will continue to do so.
All right, terrific chat with Heye Daun, the CEO of Koryx Copper, a company who's advancing the exciting Haib copper project in Namibia, and recently announced some plans to advance their 2 large-scale exploration projects in Zambia. We'll talk about that in just a bit. Before that, Heye, let's focus up on Haib. How is the 2025 exploration program going currently?
Yeah, so Haib, we are extremely busy. It's going very well. I know we haven't put out a lot of press releases, but there will be. So basically, lots of drilling, lots of technical studies, permitting, de-risking. Drilling side, unfortunately, going slower than expected because just difficult to drill. Very rugged, supervision, typical drilling problems, but we're hiring people, we're getting on top of it. We've fallen behind a bit, but we'll catch up. But generally going well. We've had some very good intercepts, waiting for some more so that we can put out a nice bulky press release in the next few weeks. So that's all good. On the study side, also going really well. Obviously, metallurgical test work is going extremely well. All the results are coming back very positively, and we should have a sort of like a PEA equivalent document ready around middle of the year. That will not include a new resource because the drilling isn't ready, and that's why we will likely keep that study internal. We're going to use it for our permitting. We're looking to apply for a mining license, which is a key permitting de-risking step. So that's all going well. We have to renew the EPL. Remember, the EPL is expiring, has to be renewed under ministerial discretion. There's always some risk because, Namibia has a new president and a new cabinet, and the new Minister of Mines has made some sort of resource nationalistic statements that the government wants to take a bigger stake, etc. We don't consider that as highly problematic because we have a dialogue through the Chamber of Mines, and I think in the end, the Namibian regulators often say the wrong things, but they typically end up doing the right things. So we're not too concerned about it. But the licensing side is very important to get the EPL renewed and get the mining license in. So that's progressing. And then lastly, on the infrastructure side, water, power, all those things, we're making a lot of progress. So no, it's going very well.
Great overview there on Haib, and I'll tap into those topics a bit more. Of course, not always the most sexy work, metallurgical work, infrastructure work, but very important if you want to take this project to the next step. You released some drill results in February 2025, and where we touched base on this as well as do a deep dive into the exploration program you have currently ongoing in our video, which was released the 14th of March for the viewers watching. Link will also be in the description down below. But quickly touching base on these drill results as well as when we should really expect the next follow-up. You said there were some difficulties drilling. When should investors expect the next assay result to hit the market?
We do have some results already. We don't want to release them because we want to bulk it up. It's always investors always misinterpret these things because they always want perfect results. And exploration, you always have some good, some bad, some average. It's like that, and that's why we need to get a bulk of results together. My feeling is probably next 4 to 6 weeks. We should have more. Sample turnaround time is currently around 6 weeks. We're drilling diamond drilling only, which takes a long time. It's very slow. And that's why the time in between releases is relatively long. So unfortunately, the bad news is people have to have a bit of patience. We're drilling actively. We're drilling in the right places. Everything is good. But I don't expect results before, let's say, 4 to 6 weeks from now.
Makes sense, and I think that's a great decision to bulk up those assays to really decrease the chances of misinterpretation. Perhaps we can also quickly talk about how long the drilling campaign at Haib will last. How many more assays should we expect? Of course, 4 to 6 weeks for the first ones. How long will drilling continue after, and how much news flow should investors expect from this program?
It's going to be ongoing for the next 2 years. We want to drill as many holes as we can, but within reason. So meaning, the infrastructure and your capability to handle the drilling has to follow the rigs. So we started with 2 rigs. We now have 4 rigs. We're ramping up to 8 rigs. Some of those rigs or those additional 4 rigs have to be acquired in the US because they are man-portable, because they have to be able to drill in these rugged mountains. Unfortunately, that procurement process has taken much longer than expected. Our drill contractors are doing it. The rig should have been on site and they're not yet. There's probably a 6 weeks delay in that. So that's dragging everything out. It's not a fatal flaw. We're still going to do those holes, but it's unfortunate because we're always in a hurry and we like to sort of deliver what we promise. The impact of this is that it affects when we can put out the studies, because our metallurgical studies will be completed quicker than the drill program. But the drill program is important because we want to increase the grade, increase the confidence, bring in the byproducts, and grow the resource, And I think realistically it's going to take 6 months of drilling at least to complete that, probably until the end of the year. So the question we have now, and sorry, I'm being very open here, don't want to confuse your investors, is so we're doing a PEA internally, and then our original target is to publish the PEA, the pre-feasibility study at the end of this year. I think that target is still intact, but it means we really have to get these drill rigs and we really have to drill more holes. So we're hiring people, bulking up to be able to basically get back on target with the drilling. Hope that makes sense. So it doesn't affect the project negatively, it's just a timing issue. But yeah, your question was how long are we going to keep drilling for? Well, even after that, even once the pre-feasibility study is published, we'll continue drilling. But the thing is, maybe I should just explain this quickly. A PEA likely will be a very positive document, but it will not have the improved grade. And that's why it will, and probably not have the increase in size either, timing-wise, by the middle of this year. And that's why it's counterproductive to publish that, because a PEA, people measure you by the PEA for a very long time. I said it last time on your show. It's a marketing document. When you publish a PEA, you've got to give it your best shot. And that's the reason why we want to publish the next comprehensive study when we have a comprehensive mineral resource. And that's why we're holding this back.
Makes complete sense, Heye. Thanks for that overview. There are plenty of catalysts on the horizon for the next 6 months, even 2 years like you were describing on the Haib project. Again, we did a deep dive on your 2025 exploration program on the 14th of March. Highly recommend the viewers to watch that to really understand what this program is all about. I would like to take you to Zambia, which you recently announced you have 2 large-scale projects located at, and you want to do some work there. But if you can take us along what really that program is all about.
Yeah, so you know what, it's interesting. When we put that press release out, so many people said to us, oh, you have something in Zambia. People don't even realize. And so, yeah, we do have 2 licenses there. We've got an earn-in that allows us to go up to 70%, if I remember correctly. It's actually 80%. Thanks for showing me my own press release there. Those licenses are very interesting. The smaller one further north is more advanced, and the much bigger one to the south is less advanced, but both are quite prospective. The one in the north is along strike. It's in the right rocks, the lower and upper Rhone group. This is sedimentary geology. So it is quite sedimentary, implies it's quite continuous along strike. So the exploration risk is relatively lower than, for example, a gold exploration program. So we're in the right rocks. We're along strike from a producing gold mine, Chibuluma, which used to be owned by Metrix, which is a big copper miner in Zambia, now Jinshuan Chinese group. So that license hasn't been explored systematically. Meaning we've got targets, but it's spotty. So we're going to explore it systematically to generate some more targets. We're starting with a drone survey, which will do magnetics in order to identify the sort of basin margins. So good exploration in order to generate more targets and improve the targets that we have to get them drill ready. So that's Luanshya. That's the northern one. It's getting a lot of attention, this license, from big players, because Zambia, as you can imagine, is very, very hot at the moment. The other license we have to the south, Mpongwe, if you scan down a bit, that's different. That's unexplored. Very little exploration been done on it historically, some by previous operators, but limited. It's from first principles. It's also in a prospective area around a dome. Domes are important for various reasons. What's nice here is because of John Andrew, our VP Exploration, he's ex-PHP, he spent time in Zambia many years ago, and he has many old relationships. And through those relationships, he was able to acquire a very significant historical data set. And that's excellent because that data set, it's from prior operators. We paid for it. It allows us to accelerate our exploration, basically generate targets quicker. We're in the process of interpreting it, and then we will do work on this license too. So exciting stuff. We're getting no credit for this in our evaluation, of course. And so we're already thinking about how do we eventually monetize these licenses, potentially do a spin-out or maybe join forces with others or do a deal with a major. Many, many options. But without a doubt, this will create significant additional value for Koryx shareholders.
Yeah, some very exciting grassroots exploration potential here. And thanks for the overview. Very important, of course, who you know as well as what you know about your own project. Staying on the second one, the Mpongwe project, for just a bit longer, like you described, there was some previous work here. There's some soil anomalies, and there's some also 2 drill holes, if I'm correct. Perhaps you can take us along how you really will go about where you're currently at, where you have a hint at potentially finding some copper here, until developing those targets which are actually drill ready to really test that thesis.
Yeah, so first I must say I'm only a mining engineer, not a geologist, and I'm also not a copper expert, I'm a gold expert. But John Andrew, our VP Exploration, is a copper expert. He's, as I said before, he worked for Asino, he actually worked for BHP and others in Zambia. So I'm going to speak about it generically maybe. The first major factor is the rainy season. The rainy season has to be finished because Zambia is subtropical and you just can't access this because of vegetation and very little exposure of rocks. So, you've got to get through the cover because, you need to get to the host rock. So that's vegetation. Another thing is you can obviously use remote techniques like geophysics, which give you structural information because there are always structural elements to this. And that's remote work, typically can be done by drones or otherwise. So that's an interesting way. And the next step then is to generate surface anomalies. And that you can only do by sampling, actually walking the ground, taking samples, rock chip samples and soil samples in a systematic fashion across the deposit. Then you generate anomalies. And thereafter you would do subsurface work, which is drilling. That's really what we want to do because that's the real truth. Because anomalies are anomalies. It's nice to have them. But you want to create like a triangle. You can't test every anomaly. The triangle means the more advanced stuff up or the more prospective targets at the top. But you need to have a full pipeline of targets because, diversification is the name of the game. You have to test lots of targets and eventually one of them will deliver. That's the systematic exploration approach, which is different to how a lot of juniors do it because most juniors are cash strapped and they find a little prospect and then they throw everything they have into one individual prospect. And if it doesn't work out, then it's tickets. That's the wrong way to explore. If you explore systematic approach, large scale approach, multiple targets, big pipeline, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, that makes complete sense there. And thanks for the overview as well. Of course, on this project, you have already done some IP anomaly work, I think. What was the correct terminology? IP chargeability work. Yes. Which, of course, tells you how chargeable the rock is, how conductive it is for electricity.
Yeah, look, IP is to be enjoyed with caution. It's a nice tool. It usually generates lots of targets. It generates these clouds. But IP is known to generate a lot of false anomalies. So basically the way exploration works is that you've got all these different techniques, geophysical techniques, and you overlay them. And where you have coincident, that's interesting. That's why people often talk about coincident anomalies. If your surface anomaly coincides with your structural interpretation and it coincides with IP, for example, then you're good. But just to rely on IP is not enough. We've had that with Asino in Namibia where we had some wonderful IP anomalies. We drilled them and they turned up nothing. So, I mean, it's sulfides. Not all sulfides will be mineralized. So that's why you got to do multiple layers of investigation where all these layers coincide.
And that's, I guess, also where that exploration meets together and really helps you drive this project forward. And what I find interesting is that in this press release, you actually referenced that you might be drilling both projects already this year.
Yes, we would certainly hope so. I mean, the problem is that the drilling season is relatively short. It's probably 8 months or so. It starts maybe in May. Southern Africa has had a very wet, Zambia has been very wet, so there's a lot of vegetation. We might only be able May, June, plus it will take us another couple of months to interpret the data that we have and do some surface work to work up these targets a bit. But yeah, I'll be very disappointed if we don't drill this year.
Great, exciting catalyst ahead for both the Haib project and of course the Zambia project, where you have this earn-in. Currently, I believe you own 51%. If you spend enough on the projects, you might get your stake up to 80%. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And also we're restructuring at the moment because at the moment we inherited a contract. But the license is still owned by another company, and we're actually converting that now so that our contractual arrangement is watertight. Basically, we've got a Zambian company, we're transferring the 51% that's happening right now. And that's very important just to ensure we've got great partners in Zambia. who offered these licenses to us, and they've offered others to us too. So we're also interested in consolidating further and acquiring additional ground, just to bulk up our Zambian portfolio. But as I said, it's tough because some very expensive deals have been done in the past, and that's why the expectations from local vendors are unrealistically high, and that's why it's very difficult to actually acquire new ground in Zambia.
All right, you got to strike a good deal there. And zooming out from the project level a bit to firm level, you've recently done a listing on the Namibian Stock Exchange. Perhaps you can share us what it really is all about and what it brought Koryx Copper benefits-wise.
Yeah, sure. No, it's excellent. So Namibia has very well-developed capital markets. It's got a large captive pool of institutional savings, very large relative to the size of the population. And it's got quite a well-developed capital markets, like it's got a stock exchange, active trading, active participants. Also has many high net worth individuals in Namibia. You know, Namibia is a very unequal society. It's got some very wealthy people and some very poor people. So there are people like my family, cattle ranchers, business people, and they all like to invest in stocks. But they also, most of them know me because of the success I've had with Osino and with Beaty Gold. So, and they've seen our model, you know, acquire assets, do what we promise to do, honest approach, integrity, and then eventually create shareholder value by selling these to bigger operators. And they get that. And so we have a lot of interest from those kind of people to invest in this company. But many of them struggle to invest because Namibia has currency control. So it's difficult for people to get money overseas into Canadian or European stockbroking accounts to buy our shares. That's why the Namibian Stock Exchange listing facilitates that, bringing in the high net worth retail buyers, but hopefully also bringing in institutional buyers like government pension funds, which is also, in a way, it's a bit of political risk insurance because the Namibian regulators want to be seen that Namibian prospects are shared with Namibian ownership. That's why we're doing it. So it's PR, it's political risk insurance, and it is getting the share price up and getting more buyers participating in future financings.
It's definitely a very, very interesting angle there. Of course, your stock price held up pretty darn well the last couple of weeks to months with all the excitement happening in the US, let's call it. Of course, with their trading tariffs and also the copper price took a huge beater. How much volumes are you actually driving on the Namibian Stock Exchange currently? Is that part of why Koryx Copper kept up so well?
Absolutely. I know the people individually. There are 4 people that bought a couple of 100,000 shares in the last couple of days. Last week or so. You know, the nice thing about a lot of these Namibian buyers is they buy these shares, they put them away, they forget about it. So they're great shareholders to have because they buy into me personally. And yes, definitely those buyers have been a significant reason why we've held up so well.
Great. That's definitely part of, I think, the appeal behind the Koryx Copper story with your strong shareholder base. I believe Ross Beaty is a shareholder. You have a couple of funds like the Commodity Discovery Fund in Amsterdam here in the Netherlands that is a shareholder. And now the Namibian Stock Exchange, people who hold for the long term, that is really key for advancing a project like yours.
Yep. We're in a fortunate position. Of course, it helps to have had some good success and have built up a bit of a reputation. Yeah, plus being in Namibia, it's very predictable. It's good. So we are highly motivated, and you can see we've bought in the market ourselves as well, and we will continue to do so.
Definitely. Switching gears real quick, of course, to the financials. I believe you have quite a large war chest of capital currently stored up in your balance sheet. Perhaps you can take us along how that's currently looking like and how far that will carry you in this year in your exploration plans, because you're doing quite a bit both at Haib and in Zambia.
Yeah, you know, the area where you can criticize us is that we don't put out enough press releases. That's my fault. But I say this because our activities are much higher than people realize. So our big war chest of $20 million has come down quite a lot. We're sitting at about $12 million now. We've spent a lot of money, and we continue to spend a lot of money on drilling, technical studies, infrastructure improvements, etc. So that money will be enough to get us to the end of the year to deliver all these milestones that I mentioned to you. But of course, we don't want to go to the edge of the envelope. So I think once the markets settle down, maybe after the Canadian summer holidays, whenever the market is good, is there for us, we'll do another financing. I mean, that's another reason we did the Namibian listing, because there is demand there. So at the moment, things are a little bit unsettled, so we're not going to do anything anytime soon, and we don't need to do anything anytime soon. Got to get the share price a bit higher, and then I think we'll do another equity financing to set us up for 2026.
Great to see that, and of course, great to hear that this will carry you till the end of the year if you needed to. Perhaps we can also talk about other funding options you have available to yourself. Of course, streaming, royalties are all options available to you. Is that something you're currently looking at? Is it something you're waging up against the cost of capital of equity?
Not really. I know in theory they say streams are lower cost of equity or lower cost of capital, but that's only if you consider the current project as it is. I'm talking generically. But if you put in future growth, that's where the value for the streamers lies. So no, we will not do any exotic financings because the ultimate aim is to attract the right partner. And in order to do so, we need to keep this project unencumbered. And we have no difficulty raising equity. We're prepared to fund this project ourselves. I personally want to own significantly more. So no need to do anything funny, and we most certainly won't do it. But having said that, we are talking to a lot of people like that. Off-takers, as you say, royalty and streaming providers. They all like this very much, and they would all very much like to get in. And we're establishing those relationships for the future, but nothing anytime soon.
Good to have those options available, and of course choose the best one for shareholders and for management. Perhaps we can end off this interview really a summary about the next couple of months, what you think are the most exciting milestones. Of course, we touched base on quite a few of them already, but really, what are the things to look out for an investor watching, wrapped up into the context of what Koryx Copper is all about?
Yes, sure. So internally, it's the financial evaluation, i.e., the integration of all the results from the drilling and the technical studies we've done so far. We've built a financial model, but we're waiting for the CapEx and OpEx estimates from the engineers. We'll get that in the next few weeks. And then we will have an updated techno-economic evaluation of this project. That will give me and our management team the confidence that this project will fly. We think it will fly. Based on our back of envelope calculations, it will fly. But that study will determine that. Unfortunately for your shareholders, or our shareholders, we can't publish that study probably because it doesn't include the mineral resource. But we can factor that, but we can't publish a factored mineral resource. So that's very, very important for me internally. Secondly, getting on top of the drilling. We're getting more drill rigs, getting additional drill contractors, getting the drilling rate improved. That's a slow process, but it's going to happen. So getting more results. Infrastructure, water, power are two large items. I mean, one of the risks is still power. This project is going to consume a lot of power. Water, we seem to have a nice solution that we're working on. We just need to, it's the Orange River, but also a large dam that's unused in Namibia that requires a pipeline that's being estimated now. So all these things, they sound small, but they're all steps along the way. Permitting is key. We're going to submit our EPL renewal application imminently. And we're setting up a meeting with the new Minister of Mines, also to pave the way for the mining license application that's going to happen around mid-year. Another key event. And then it's middle of the year, early second half, and then we obviously full on towards the pre-feasibility study, which is still planned for the end of the year. So yeah, that's exciting stuff. I mean, Zambia, I'm also quite excited about because we need to get that news out more. And hopefully find a way to monetize that, maybe do a spin out, maybe merge it with somebody else, maybe get a major partner in, various options on the table. So I think those are the key events. And of course, I think most importantly, but we can't control that, is we need the markets to settle down a bit. One of the problems we have as a copper company right now is all the attention is now on gold. They call copper Dr. Copper because it's a leading indicator, copper price leading indicator for recession. Economic outlook globally is not that great, which is putting pressure on copper prices. I mean, the fundamentals, macro, long term, are still very much intact, are absolutely stunning for copper. But in the short term, we've got that economic sort of headwind. And I think that needs to settle down a bit, and that will bring some fresh impetus into the equities again. In ending off, we can't control those macro factors. What we can control is execution, doing what we said we would do, getting this done, and that's what we're focusing on. And that's what we're really motivated about.
Great, Heye, great overview there. Plenty of catalysts on the horizon. Thank you so much for your time today.
Great, thank you, Stan.